Hey guys, it's Kios, aka the Hidden Mystic, reminding everyone that the world around you is attempting to command your attention. And if you allow it to, it will persuade or dictate, manipulate your behaviors. So, these people who are spending all this money trying to get their advertisements on TV, trying to get them on your radio, trying to get them into any program that already has your attention. Because if your attention is directed towards something, you can subtly manipulate that individual's behavior. So what is mysticism? What is it about? In the most basic sense, mysticism is about understanding this control that can be exerted on you if you give your attention away, taking back that control and deciding what you are going to do, really deciding it, where something else isn't manipulating you, not even on the most subtle level. So today, I wanted to discuss a little bit about why this station was started. This station or this channel was begun because, like a lot of people out there, I felt like I had a hole in my life. I felt like there were concepts and things that I had learned, and I didn't know how to I didn't really have anyone to talk to them about, is really what it was. I did 12 and a half years in prison. I got out of jail, and I didn't have an ability to really connect with a lot of the people around me. Now, that may come as a surprise to a lot of you, because if you know me in real life, you know that I'm sociable. I deal with a lot of people and things like that. But I deal with a lot of people on a superficial level. We don't really discuss things that really matter to me. And I don't feel like I really discuss things that matter to them. And our society has kind of left a lot of people in that same situation where they deal with external things so much that the internal aspect of them is just forgotten. And you're trying to do just some basic things. I mean, like some basic things: food, clothing, and shelter. You got people who are going to work every day, and the majority of their life is spent trying to provide food, clothing, and shelter. So the higher chakras, they're just ignored, or basically the idea that you could do anything else is neglected. Dreams are neglected. Like Imam Ali said, a person cannot hear reason over the growl of their stomach. And that's so true. You can't get to anything else as far as abstract thought and things along those lines when the whole society is put you in a position where your every waking minute where you have energy is spent just trying to survive. So, like a lot of other people, that's kind of like where my life had went. And after being in a position of like somewhat like a monk, where somebody else was taking care of my food, clothing, and shelter for me, I had a surplus of time to study, to look at myself, to work on myself, and to grow. And inside of that growing, I didn't have to deal with a lot of the life pressures that came with getting out of prison, but I also had a lot more time to learn. That's why the brothers call it the Hidden University. There's nothing else like it. There's no other place where you're not gonna have to really worry about where your next meal is coming from, where you're gonna get cable TV in a lot of prisons, and where you're gonna just be able to be somewhat comfortable. I mean, you're in prison, of course, but you don't have to worry about a lot of the things that people who are outside of prison have to worry about. And you're able to focus. If you allow it, it can become a great thing. However, in all that studying and all that growing and already being a person who is cerebral, I was released and I wasn't able to really connect meaningfully, as far as I was concerned, with a lot of the people around me. And I know that there are a lot of people who feel the same way, and that's where this station, this channel, the idea came from. Speaking with brothers and having a desire to discuss things that the people around me just weren't discussing. That there's really no other way to put that, especially in the places where somebody who has recently been released from prison can get employment. And if you know anything about employment in this country, you're going to be spending over or around 50% of your actual day at the place of employment, and the majority of your weeks. Between that and sleeping, you may have 2 or 3 hours for eating and things along those lines, but you don't have a lot of time left for luxury. So while I'm at work and the type of places where a person who has been recently released from prison can get a job readily, the people who are working there are usually not interested in so-called spiritual concepts. There are a few people there. Of course, there are always exceptions to the rule, but this is rare, it's few and far between. And being mostly interested in those types of things, I wasn't really able to connect with people on a level where I felt it would be meaningful. So I wanted to ask everyone who's watching this, if you could like and subscribe and help the community to grow. If you have anything to say about what I'm saying, any comments, I would ask you to leave them on the page. I will definitely get back at you, and I will make sure that we can discuss whatever topics are dropped. Any challenges, I'm all right with all that. If you know me, you know it's nothing to discuss whatever the topic is. But without further ado, let's jump into the topic of why today's video is being made. Today's video is being made simply to look at the idea of deity. Now, not in the sense like how people utilize it in a lot of these videos that I've seen, where they're talking about what deity is, what God is, because I feel like, honestly, there's not a lot of need for theological conversations about who God is or things like that. Not because there's not a need for it at all, but because it's not practical to the average person. So the average person has no interest in religion because the ideas are impractical. Like, how do I use in my everyday life the fact that Jesus died for me? Like, what do I do with that every day? What do I do with the fact that Muhammad was able to deliver this book, this miracle book, to the community? Like, what do I do with that? How do I use that every day to change my life? And if I'm struggling, the answers just don't come fast enough. That's what it really comes down to. It's like, what do I do now? I'm struggling now. I'm hungry now. I need answers now. And people aren't patient. And probably in no time in history have people been as impatient as they are now. You know, our entire society is about instant gratification. And a lot of the time, the answers that religion offers they just take too long. That's what the problem is. But what we're gonna look for, a lot of people rather. But what I wanted to discuss was like this idea of, like, as always, demystifying concepts and concepts that people run into. The idea of the deity, this being that is all powerful, can see everything that is taking place, has always existed, will always exist. These ideas. And one of the things that's hard for a person is like, how do I relate with this entity? Because this entity is unlike anything that I've ever encountered. It is so unlike me that I can't even relate with it. So as a result, I don't understand why I would even be of value to this thing. I don't know what. And that leaves people with a lot of nagging questions. And oftentimes, the religion that you're talking about, the answer is just faith. And faith usually ends up being the answer for inadequate knowledge. It doesn't usually provide you with any tangible thing to do besides hope a whole lot. And maybe something will work out. And don't get me wrong, the mind is a powerful thing. If you've ever heard of phantom pregnancy, the idea that a woman who is not pregnant can experience hormonal changes, her period can stop, all these things just based on the power of her mind and what her mind is telling her body. Like, her mind could be telling her body she's pregnant. There is actually no embryo inside her body, but her body will undergo the physical changes. That's miraculous. So when you think about the power of the human mind, it is a miraculous thing, which is why I said it is so important to take back that control. Because there's people who are aware of the power of your mind, and they're trying to influence it subtly. And at some other video, we'll discuss ways to combat this, and we'll also discuss ways to be aware of it. How to be aware if somebody is trying to subtly manipulate your mentality. How to be aware of psychic vampires and things along these lines. But for today, we're just gonna look at the idea that God may be just a personification of reality itself. And by that I mean ascribing human characteristics to reality. Now, I'm not saying that there is no deity, of course, but I'm also not going to say that there is one. But I'm just posing a different concept. Because if there's anything that this channel is meant to do, it is to promote thought. Because if you're not thinking, someone else is thinking for you. That's what the intro is about. So look at this. What do we know about God? We know that he's always existed. Like, what is reality? Reality is the things that exist. It's a state of existence. What do we know about it? You know, like what you find in the 10 Commandments, like from Exodus 20. I'm not going to use the other 10 Commandments that's found in Exodus 34 because most people that I encounter are kind of unaware that these even exist. But just because some people may be aware of it, and that might be like some type of comment somewhere, I'm gonna mention that I'm aware of it and I'm choosing not to use it. But we know that there is no other God, and that's important because there is no other reality. There is only one reality. Now, how we experience reality can be different. How our perspectives of that reality may be different, but the reality itself is one single thing. There is only one thing that exists. The other things may have a level of potential existence, but at the end of the day, something either exists or it doesn't exist. Now, like, I understand there's a whole lot of science. There's a whole lot of different ways of viewing that. I'm not gonna jump into that. We're talking about in a general sense here, in layman's terms, how you would deal with the average person. If something exists, it exists. If something doesn't, it just doesn't exist. Another thing is about coveting. I'm gonna jump around because I'm not gonna do every single one. The thing is to mentally not to desire a reality other than the one that you currently possess. Now, for that, it's not to desire another person's perspective or another person's possessions. That's important because there's no reason to want what someone else has. There's no reason to desire their reality when you can make that your reality. Now, there's the difference is that coveting is just wanting something from someone, wanting what someone else has, being jealous, envious, things along those lines, not being ambitious, not using that as motivation. If you see somebody has something that you want, that should motivate you. That should make you go up every day and go to school. That should make you get up and go get a job. That should make you hustle. Man, I mean, even if you a thug, that should make you go get it. You shouldn't be just sitting there hating on them and wanting what they have. That is useless. And all it does is lower your quality of life to where you become depressed. And then, that doesn't help anybody. And like, I wanted to discuss just those two things. I assure you that it does apply to every single 10 of the 10 Commandments. I am not going to do it today, but I will also discuss another way of viewing it that comes from Islam, not Christianity or Judeo-Christian traditions, but Islam. And that is the idea of Allah being al-Haq. And by that, they use this term al-Haq, and they usually translate it as the truth. Now, truth is one of the definitions of this word, but the word also means reality, and that's the one that we want to focus on for the purpose of this conversation. One, to show the similarities between the two religions, and two, to show how this concept just may already be something that you've dealt with in depth. I want to say that as a result of what I've already presented, you should be able to see how this thing exists within the concept of the 10 Commandments, which exists within Judeo-Christian traditions as well as within Islam. It also exists in strictly Christian tradition with the idea of the body of Christ. I wanted to discuss that a little bit because the body of Christ is the believer's spirit, the idea of the believer spiritually being a single entity that is married to Jesus on a spiritual level. This is important because it shows the interconnectedness of the creation around you. This is important because if we're going to deal with the idea of mysticism, you want to attack the mentality first. Because when you attack the mentality first, the behaviors change automatically as a result of the mentality changing. So when you have this idea of the interconnectedness of the reality around you, then you can see that I'm one with this person over here, because this person over here has also, the Holy Spirit is also within them, or Jesus is also touched their lives. God is also dwelling within this other individual, like from Ephesians, and things along this line. But it's important because we deal with this on another level, just knowing that this isn't just me. What's going on inside my mind, my spirituality, my consciousness isn't just me either. Now, I exist on a micro level. When you just look at something like my hand has the fingers, the hand itself, this nail, these knuckles, this blood coursing through my hand. It's a lot going on right here. And there's cells right here as well. Cells, tissue, which is a grouping of cells working together, common goal. These things are akin to like a human being who exists within a body of people, which exists within organic life on Earth, which exists within a solar system of planets, which exists within a galaxy and a grouping of galaxies. But all these things are connected in a similar way that I just described an individual is. As they say, as above, so below, of course. But we also have that same idea within Islam. And that idea, as far as the mentality, is reached in a different way, but the result is the same. Now, the mentality would be the idea that Allah breathed of his ruh, his essential nature, into Adam himself in order to make him a living being. And from that breathing of his spirit, which also takes place in the Bible, in Genesis, in the account of the creation of Adam, he then took from Adam and created his wife, or his mate, Eve, and from her created, or those two, all of mankind. This is important because the mentality within Islam and within Christianity is to view individuals around you at a micro level, and at a macro level, everything around you, all of creation, as coming from this a similar source. This is important because you can see the kindred nature of everything around you when you start there, and that should change the way that you treat everything around you, because you're aware that everything comes from the same place that you do, and that makes you guys like a family. Like a brother comes from the same parents as you, and your cousins may come from the same grandparents as you, or great grandparents. So it's a very similar idea, very similar concept. But without further ado, I'm gonna try to cut this short. I didn't really want to make this long. I'm looking at the time right now, like, I'm a little bit too long, longer than I want it to be. But the last thing I want to tell everybody is that the reason why I decided to name this channel The Hidden Mystic was because the person who is looking the part is often playing the part. And the people who you least suspect, the people that you least expect to be mystics or to be people who are upon a spiritual path, may not look the way that you feel they should, may not speak the way that you feel they should. And as it says in the Bible, you may, by helping a homeless person or a hungry person, you may unwittingly be entertaining angels. You have no idea of the spiritual level of the individuals that you are encountering. You have no idea who these people are, or their relationship with reality around them, or their relationship with God. You have no idea where these people are in regards to their spiritual development. So, no matter who it is that you encounter, treat those people like they are people. Help them. And with that, peace. Proper education always corrects error. Proper education always corrects error.